If you only had $500 to get prepared, how would you spend it? Well, I've been prepping for over 25 years, and today I'm telling you how I'd spend my first $500 on preparedness. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of The One Row. My name is David, and today we are diving into how I'd spend my first $500 on preparedness. I've been doing this a long time. I know a lot of you out there have been doing it even longer. So starting off with, if I missed something or you would do it differently, leave me a comment below. Help me to do better, because part of what I want to do is teach people and help people get into preparedness and to be ready for whatever might come their way. Now, this list today, $500, how you'd start, how I'd spend it to get into prepping. Now, this list doesn't really include firearms. Maybe you've already got them, maybe you don't want them, maybe you can't have them where you live, or whatever reason, you can't mess with guns. Totally fine. It's your life, your choice. Don't spend it. Again, this list is really without firearms. However, I do want to kind of say, if you don't or can't get firearms for whatever reason, then I would definitely recommend spending some money on self-defense outside of this $500, whether it be a burner launcher, taser, pepper spray, nightstick, whatever, baseball bat, whatever is the best that you're willing or capable of having in your locale, do that. But if possible, I do recommend a firearm for a lot of different reasons for most people. Now, when it comes to firearms, I will say $500. So if we were to bump this up to $1,000, let's have a little gun fun up front before we dive to the rest of it. If I were going to spend $500, say I had an extra $500, $500 for other prepper stuff, and then another $500 for gun and ammo, what I would probably buy would be something like a CZ P10C, Ruger RXM, Canik TP9 SF. Maybe a Smith & Wesson, the SD9. They're all pretty solid options in that real budget category. There are other options, but I get nervous if something is too cheaply made. These are kind of proven pistols. They've been around the block, and people tend to trust them, and I can't fault them for that. So that's, say, we'll just throw this out as $400 for the pistol. Then I would spend $50 on a holster, something concealable, maybe not in the waistband, maybe outside the waistband, but something that you can put on your hip and conceal under a flannel or a jacket. Then I would spend 40 or 50 bucks on jacketed hollow point ammo. 40, 50 bucks, you can get 100 rounds. So pistol and a holster and 100 rounds of ammo for about 500 bucks. Now, if we're talking at $500 to get started for a basic prepping plan, so much of what I do on this channel, I really want to reach out to those who've never been into preparedness to go from zero to something. For those of you who've been prepping for years, I love you and I'm glad you're here and you're watching, but you're at some level of pretty well situated. I want to get people that are at zero to something. 72-hour kits, hurricane ready, tornado ready, some of the basics covered. And that's what this video is for, is to help somebody go from zero, just whatever's currently in your house, to something that you can actually feel a little bit more confident should there be some kind of either natural disaster, economic collapse, horrible inflation, et cetera, et cetera. Now, all of this, is part of an overall healthy approach to prepping, which obviously includes living within your means, saving money, planning for retirement. I'm into preparedness. I'm not necessarily like a doomsday prepper wholly. Like I don't put everything I own, all my money, into preparedness, right? I do believe in a balanced lifestyle, right? I want to go on vacation sometimes. I think that you want to keep that in mind as well. If you're a beginning prepper, I don't mean to sacrifice everything to get this stuff, but I do think that you should do some things to get a little bit more prepared. When we actually get into our list of what we're going to spend, our budget plan for $500, first off, we need to look at water. I recommend a Sawyer mini filter for around $25-ish. I recommend 2, 3, 4, depending on how much your budget is, but to try to stay within that $50, 7-gallon aquatainers. Again, those are about 20 bucks each. And then I'd also get some water purification tablets for, say, another 15. That brings us to a grand total of about 80 bucks, and that gives us the ability to filter water, purify water, and store some water. And it's not where I'd stop, but again, this is the beginning. We're laying a foundation that we're going to carry into the future. But let's next go into food storage. We're gonna spend $100 on food. We're talking about shelf-stable stuff, nothing refrigerated. For this part of the plan, I would focus on bulk rice, beans, oats, peanut butter. Now, what you might do is spend $50 of that just to add stuff that you would normally have in your pantry, like macaroni and cheese, and get extra of it, for example. And then maybe $50 into more of the bulk rice, beans, peanut butter, etc. But get about $100 worth of food as inexpensively as possible. And if you're very careful, you can get 2 to 3 weeks worth of calories for that $100, depending on how many people are in your home. Next, we need to get something to cook that food with. We would get a small propane camp stove and say 2 of the propane tanks, the little isobutane tanks, 1 pound tanks, plus the stove for maybe $40 total. Then I would also look at getting a fire starting kit, something that you can actually start fires, and maybe some lighters, invest maybe $20 into lighters and fire starters, stuff like that, to get things that you can start fires really simply. So in total for cooking, we're looking at about $60 total. So we have about 80 on water, 100 on food, and then 60 on fire and heating and cooking, I should say. Next, we're going to do lighting and power. It's about $50. We're going to spend $15 to $20 on a rechargeable headlamp. Or a set. You can actually get a set of 3 on Amazon for a decent price. Then I would get a solar lantern for, say, maybe $20, and then a rechargeable battery, like a USB battery pack type thing, $15, $20. So again, right around $50 in between headlamps, battery, and solar lantern. After that, we're going to spend about $50 on a first aid and hygiene. So maybe $30 for a decent pre-built first aid kit. Now, you're not going to get some of the really fancy, like, quick clot and Israeli bandages and compression gauze and some of those stuff. It's going to be hard, but do the best you can. Then also you would want to consider stocking up on personal hygiene, having some extra toothpaste, toothbrushes, some soap, hand sanitizers. Maybe spend another $20 on that, but spend about 50 between the two. So 30 on first aid, 20 on hygiene, get about $50 worth. Next, we're going to spend about $100 on tools and protection. I'd recommend spending about 30 to $50 on a multi-tool. Probably won't get you a Leatherman, but you can get like a Gerber, a fixed blade knife, a good fixed blade knife. You can get some decent quality overseas made knives. They're not amazing, but again, we're doing it cheaply. For about $50, you can get a pretty good fixed blade, say 4.5 to 5.5 inch blade, a good comfy handle. But you also may want to then consider some pepper spray. I know earlier I talked about firearms, and if you don't do firearms, get pepper spray. Even if you do the firearm thing, I recommend you have some pepper spray too. It's actually really handy for times when lethal self-defense is not quite called for, but you definitely want somebody to stay away from you. I'll leave it there for legal reasons. Anyway, moving on. Then I would probably spend $50 or $60 to round us up to that $500 on information gathering equipment. I would get paper maps of your area. I would get a radio, either a rechargeable radio or battery powered radio, some spare batteries for it, so that you can stay informed with that emergency radio. And then also you might consider just having some extra cash. If there's any money left over, just get a couple of extra 20s or 10s left, just so you have something on hand. And that will take you right up to about $500. Now, if you do the 500 for the firearm and other stuff, that's awesome. If you do the 500 just for the basic preparedness, what you now have is some basic capability that you may not have had before. And if you combine that with other things you already have, maybe you already have some hiking boots, maybe you already have some good work boots, maybe you've got cold weather gear from just living in a cold area. Now you combine that, this $500 that you just spent on these things, plus some of the stuff you already have, and you got some backpacks, and now you can actually, oh my gosh, I could actually put together a 72-hour kit with this stuff, or I could bug in and actually have be able to stay in my home for up to 2-3 weeks with as long as I don't run out of food, for example. Again, a lot of what I'm trying to do here on this channel is to help people go from zero to something and to develop a passion for preparedness. because goodness knows I am passionate about preparedness. And anyway, if you found this video helpful, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, leave a comment below. Did I miss anything critical that people should consider? I'd love some feedback there. And anyway, we'll see you next time.